Hello and welcome to episode 4 of the making of album number 5. I'm still quite deep into a track that I started not last episode, the episode before that, so I'm going to wrap that up in this one because otherwise I feel like every single episode is going to be about one song. But the last 2 episodes, I was looking at a demo that I had on my phone called Quit. Basically played it to a click track. I've now got a solid foundation for the demo made up of all the things that you would have in the foundation of a song. So it's got your bass, acoustic guitar on there, and it's got some drums. So it's kind of got everything it needs for me to start building up and figuring stuff out. The structure's all there. So what I'm going to do now is I've got a few ideas of things I want to do with that track. I want to have some kind of arpeggios on there. Arpeggios, I think, means plucked guitar. That's what I call it. Arpeggios, like basically you play chords, but you pluck them instead of strumming them. I'm pretty sure that's right. The terminology in my head is not quite always correct musically, but anyway, some plucked chords. I think it maybe needs like a bit of organ or something, like a long sort of sound on the chorus. I also want, what else do I want? I've also kind of made it so it plays a bar of the song already at the beginning, so I want to put some sort of like intro riff on that. And I think maybe possibly some hand claps on the middle. That's what I've sussed out so far. This is the demo, this is what it sounds like right now with none of that on it. This is the foundation so far. Now let's add some stuff to it. So I'm going to start off with the electric guitar. I've already gone through a bunch of VST plugins to figure out the sounds that I want. I've got a couple of sounds. Oops. I've got a couple of sounds that sound good. A couple of guitar sounds that I like, and they kind of sound good together. So I'm going to kind of play everything twice and use those 2 channels that I've set up with those 2 guitar effects, and then have each one pan slightly to the left and the right. So one slightly clean and one slightly distorted. I'm playing on this, which is oops, apologies viewers. This is a Fender Telecaster Deluxe, which I bought because when we did the first album, was it the first or was it the second album? I think it was the first album. Anyway, I always had problems with the Jag Stang. I had a Jag Stang for years, loved the Jag Stang because it looks cool, but then when you start playing it in the studio, you realise it's kind of, there are a few things that weren't particularly great about it, and the intonation and some other bits and pieces. Is that the right word again? Intonation? It is the intonation. It's basically if you play something open and then you play it on the 12th fret, it's the same note, or it should be. When it's not the same note, it's because something's gone wrong, and it's kind of goes very slightly wrong on a Jag Stang. But on a Telecaster, which is the workhorse guitar for rhythm, it fixes some of those issues. So anyway, I'm using a Telecaster to do these lead bits. So the bit I've come up with for the intro sounds like this. Something like that. I'll play it better after 100 takes. So I'm going to do that now. I'm going to record that. I'll cut to the audio of what's going into there so you can hear it with the effects. That's the intro, and then we're going to do some arpeggio plucking stuff all over the place. So basically, me just basically putting it so low in the mix that you won't notice my mistakes, but it's just there's going to be a bunch of plucky stuff going on the chorus, so when the chorus comes in with that, it will just be me going. Stuff like that. Let's do that now. So I've already done some experimentation with this. essentially I'm adding a little bit of, this will all get redone in the studio properly anyway, but for the time being trying to get it to sound as good as it can, added a little bit of chorus and a little bit of reverb to make it sound better, which is what you'll hear now. So there we have it. What have we got now? A bit of what, I'm going to put some organ on there. The organ, I don't have an organ that you play to hand, so I'm going to use MIDI for that, which means that it makes more sense for me to show you that bit when I'm sharing the screen. So we'll do that in a bit, which I'm going to have some of that on the choruses. I'm also going to need some vocals. I'm going to layer it up a little bit on the choruses, and I was thinking maybe doubling it up on the bits where the lyric says okay, where it goes, no, all right. So there's a lyric that says, what does the lyric say? At the end of this, each verse has 2 lines. At the end of each line, it says, it's all right. So, everyone has a weight to bear, and even though it seems unfair, it's all right. Basically, it goes, it's all right. That bit will be doubled or tripled up. So let's do that now. Let's add some vocals. So here's an interesting fact. To save space, I got one of these microphone things that clip onto the side of your desk, because it just saves me having another microphone stand on the floor cluttering stuff up. The only downside of that is it doesn't go up to my full height standing, so when I do vocals and play guitar, I either have to bend my knees or just hunch over slightly or sit on a chair. Today, I'm going to sit on a chair. Can you see me? Yes. And I've already sorted out the effects. I've got this plugin, it's an Abbey Road reverb plugin, so it's got a really nice reverb sound to it. A little bit of reverb, a little bit of delay, gives it a bit of a 60s feel. Let's do that. Alrighty.
When you've got nothing left to give, and all you wanna do is quit, that's alright. Just sit alone in your comfort zone, have a beer and stare at your phone. It's alright.
Now we'll triple up the all rights.
And all you wanna do is quit. That's alright. Just sit alone in your comfort zone, have a beer and stare at your phone. It's alright. You know.
So there we have it. We've got some guitar overdubs, we've got some vocals, we've got some backing vocals. What else do we need? Some organ. We'll do that next, and I'll show you some of the plugins. Right, I think everything's done now. I've got the demo sorted, mix, I've got the organ on there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to share the screen with you so that you can see what I can see what I see, hear what I hear. I'll show you some plugins and the organ. Right, so over here we have a finished project, a finished demo. The next thing I'm going to do after this will be to just write down some notes. I'll scribble down the chords and stuff in that big document that I showed you in episode 1. BPMs, that kind of stuff, and any ideas or tweaks that I want to make to it, or directions for people to do stuff to it. So I added the chorus. I put it really low in the mix here. Let me press play.
All you can do when it gets too much for you, yeah, it's all you can say.
The idea is that just stays quite low in the mix. It's there. You can kind of, if you think about it and you pay attention, you'll know it's there. If you're not, it's not a big thing. The riff at the beginning of the song, that's a big thing. You know that's there. This organ is a little thing. It's low in the mix. It just acts as a kind of soundscapey thing.
All you can do when it gets too much.
I'm using a plugin called Labs from Spitfire. I think it's called Labs. It's called Labs when you right click and you add it. This was like a free thing they gave away. It's got an organ and a bunch of bass instruments and stuff, but the organ's a nice sound. So I use that now and again when I need an organ. And all I did for this, I didn't even play it. I looked up what the chords were. I know what the chords were on the guitar, and then I transposed that to keys and I put it in there, and then drew them into the MIDI thing.
All you can do when it gets too much for you. Yeah, it's all you can say. So just say it, say it.
Alright, so that's that bit. What else have I done? I used this other cool plugin. I'll show you another really good one. CLA. I bought this pack from Waves called CLA because I was kind of really struggling when I moved to Cubase to get a vocal effect that I liked. And then I found this thing called, and I've messed around with loads of stuff, but there's this thing called, I can't remember what CLA is, it's probably someone's name, it's all someone's name, not Butch Vig's Vocals. I nearly bought that. That's the demo version. I just changed it. I didn't buy the Butch Vig one. It was good, but not as good as CLA. CLA gives you all these different presets, and all I use is, I very rarely tweak stuff. A lot of the time I just go for factory defaults because the people that have made these default settings are generally better than I am. So mixing and mastering, it's all going to be tweaked by Owen anyway, but it's good enough for demoing. So I'm using CLA on a lot of stuff, even on bass, because the pack came with loads of cool stuff. It came with like CLA bass, CLA guitar. So if you look at the bass one here, the plugins, I've got it on there as well. CLA, DI feeder, I've set the bass to. You can hear the bass with and without that. The bass sounds like this without. Oh, with, sorry. That's without. And that's with. This makes it sound a bit better. And then you've got like, did I put some on the guitar? I didn't put anything on the acoustic guitar because it's kind of buried quite far in the mix. What else did I put CLA on? Just that. Oh, I might have put some on the drums actually. Even though it's a drum machine, it's essentially a drum machine, isn't it? But still put a bit of CLA on that. Sounds like that with CLA. That's without. This is the reverby thing that I used it on the drums, but also used it on the vocals that I mentioned. Abbey Roads. This is cool. Again, loads of presets done by people at Abbey Road. I don't have to think about it. I just want reverb. I can just keep flicking through until I find something I like. I generally move this thing. I move these two things here. Those are the only two things I mainly change on this. I basically turn it, because when you put one of these effects on, they're always at 100%, so I basically pull that down and maybe adjust the reverb one. And people that are better than me have adjusted all this for me in the presets. Rick Beato would hate this, wouldn't he? I get the feeling that he doesn't like this kind of stuff because it's taking the skill out of musicianship. He's good though, isn't he? Right, where were we? And then on the master channel, just to make everything fit together, that's the master channel. I use one of the channel strips master settings, AM, Alan Morgan I think that stands for, it's his initials, but I've got this set to, you can basically just choose a mastering preset and it just basically puts some EQ and compression, sometimes some other stuff as well. And then one other thing I add, which is very, very subtle, is this thing called Kramer tape stereo, which I started using a while ago just because it kind of takes the edge off stuff and makes things sound less sterile. Like it's not just, 'cause when you first put the track together, it sounds very much like you got drums, bass and all the rest of it all in their own lanes doing their own thing, and it's not blending, and then you start adding the mastering stuff and then it all starts to sound a little bit more holistic. And this thing here, this little tape stereo thing, if I play this,
You know it's all you can do when it you.
turn it off.
And it's all you can say. So just say it anyway. Have you been working a 4-hour week?
So there we go, that's it. The song's done. I can move on to doing something else now, which I will do. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and the next episode we'll be doing something else, looking at another song.